Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Rausha Sabilah Putri, and join with me in work in pairs right now is Yulfarivo Priambodo. Now we are going to talk about a poetry called I Am Nobody. Who are you? I'm Nobody. Who are you? By Emily Dickinson. I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us. Don't tell. That advertise, you know. How dreary to be somebody. How public, like a frog, to tell one's name, the livelong June, to an admiring book.
So, this is type and characteristics. A. Type. This poem is classified as lyrical poetry because it shows Emily Dickinson's strong state of mind, perception, and thought. In the poem, Emily introduces herself to the reader as nobody, before excitedly realizing that the address is nobody too. The reader might say it as people who just don't make as much noise. Although this poem is short, the word is relatable and melodic. If it added with a melody, it becomes song. And B. Characteristics. The first is message. The nobody is a decent thing to be private and selfless, with no need of recognition from the vulgar mob. Contrast that with the somebody, a loud, repetitive, egotistical thing who sits with other like-minded, drearies, craving the worship of the masses. The poem then calls out to its readers to say that being humble, withdrawn, shy, or private is just fine. In fact, such a way of life has many virtues of its own. This poem mostly uses a denotative word like nobody, somebody, and use a figurative language like frog and book. The second is sounds. There is no a specific rhyme, scheme, and matters in this poem. Emily Dickinson framed the syntax with her use of daces and the punctuation. And the third is format. The poem packs only two stanzas. Each stanza has the quatrain format. It consists of 4 lines in a stanza.
Now, we're going to talk about the elements of this poem. The first element is intrinsic. There is a theme. The main theme is self-identity and all that goes with it. The second one is sound patterns. There is a rhyme and meter. The first two lines at the first stanza has a similar sound at the end. We can see it in you and to. The second stanza has a rhyme scheme which is ABCB. We can see it in folk and bogue. Word sounds can be found in this poem, such as assonance. We can find it in the sentence, Are you nobody too? There's a repetition of the vowel O. And the other one is How dreary to be somebody. We can see the repetition of vowel E in this sentence. And we can see the repetition of the word nobody. The third one is figurative language. There is simile. We can see it in How public like a frog. It shows the direct comparison showing similarities between two different things using like or as. And there's also a personification. How public like a frog to tell one's name. So a frog is given human attributes, which is to. And the other one is understatement. We can find it in I'm nobody. It is representing something as less than what it is with humor. The fourth one is message. The first message in first stanza is Emily straightly claiming that she is nobody, which is a paradox in herself. But she preferred to be a nobody than a somebody because she wants a secretive and a private relationship or partnership. And she asks if there's someone is nobody too and wants to be paired. And it must be kept quiet because if they get to know, they'll broadcast it to the whole world. This is a comical take on the world of fame and celebrity. In the second stanza, Emily Dickinson compares her nobody of the first stanza with a somebody, a frog in the second, and used the adjective dreary to describe what it is to be a somebody. The meaning of rogues in this stanza is that rogues go public at mating time when the males gather to find a partner and establish territory. So whilst the action is instinctive, it is still, to Emily, it is dull and boring and vulgar. The main point is, being a nobody is to shun the 15 minutes of fame, to be wary of the negative influence of public opinion, and to remain humble and not to rely on the masses of self-worth. The fifth one is mood or feeling. The tone is mocking to compare a nobody and somebody, but it also opens up our mind about this unique perspective of being a nobody. The mood and feeling in this poem is brave and proud to be whoever we are without recognition from others. Now, we're going to talk about the extrinsic element. First, author biography. So, this is the picture of Emily Dickinson and her family. Emily Dickinson was born on December 8, 1830 in Amherst, Massachusetts. She attended Mount Holyoke Female Seminary in South Hadley, but only for 1 year. Her father, Edward Dickinson, was actively involved in state and national politics, serving in Congress for her brother Austin, who attended law school and became an attorney, lived next door with his wife, Susan Gilbert. Dickinson's younger sister, Lavinia, also lived at home, and she and Austin were intellectual companions for Emily during her lifetime. Although she only attends female seminary for a year and minimum experience, she is very smart, critical, and has a unique perspective about life. She is also the most stubborn and has a strong determination between her siblings. She is very curious and excited about death, what will happen in the afterlife, because she is desperate of her boring life. That's why she writes quite a lot about death in her poetry. Second, value element in the story. The value of this poem is covered every sector and aspect of life. In any term, we have to accept, be grateful, and love ourselves, because once we do that, we focus on what we can do and create more works. At the end, are creations that speak to the other and they know and appreciate us. Emily Dickinson proved this right with all her poems. Even now, her house in Amherst is become a national museum. Third, social situation. The publishing year of this poem is unknown because Emily Dickinson was not publicly recognized during her lifetime. The first volume of her work was published posthumously in 1890, after her death in 1886. But during her lifetime, America is still developing all aspects, like in economy, science, and technology. For the cultural one, many Americans had become disenchanted with the war and the terrible battlefield losses. The slavery of a black people was a big deal, and the religion was quite influential in all aspects. Women still not have their rights in lots of aspects, like education, position at work, and politics. So that's all for the presentation. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.